Hello, and welcome back to the Utah Tech Leads Endorsed Candidate Series. Today we have with us Representative Steve Handy. How are you doing, Representative Handy?
Well, I am just great. I'm so excited for this weather. It's a little cooler, a little overcast, lovely.
I know I'm wearing a sweater and I'm like, I'm comfortable. It's like nice. And
Who knew? Who knew?
Exactly. Even last week I would have been dying.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
right,
It's lovely. So tell
right.
us a little bit about yourself and your district. And I know districts are changing, and has that impacted you at all?
Well, thanks very much. This is exciting to have this visit with you. I am the state representative, Republican, as you know, from District 16. It's an Eastern Layton portion. And in redistricting, I lost some good folks and I gained some good folks, and that's the way it goes. And so it's the eastern part. It has a little sliver of Clearfield and a little sliver of South Weber, interestingly enough, as things got pushed around to get to the 42,000 mark of a house district. So I have served since 2010. I was appointed, and after a change in this district, and I've continued to be reelected. It's been gratifying and very pleasing to me. People ask me all the time, Steve, do you like serving in the legislature? And I say, about half the time. But I love the people, and I love policy, and I love being able to help my constituents. That's the thing that is just so great. And I've been able to wade into some really important policy areas that I'm happy to tell you about. But anyway, I've lived in Layton, my wife and I, and our 6 children. They're all out of the house now for over 40 years. I served 2 terms on the Layton City Council. People said, why don't you run for the city council? Okay. And then the opening of the legislature, why don't you run for the legislature? And so, okay. And so here I am, and running for reelection, in kind of a unique thing that we can talk about here in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're trying to make history. You lost your delegate election.
Yeah.
And you did not collect signatures. So now you are running one of the biggest write-in campaigns of Utah's entire statehood. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I will do that. I noticed very early that I was up for reelection. I was going to run for reelection, and that's a strategic thing that you do. And with 1 hour to go in the filing deadline, I got an opponent, and someone that hasn't lived here very long. And I thought, oh, I can handle this. And so instead of going, I made a tactical mistake. It would have cost me $10,000 to get the 1,000 signatures, and we've got to fix that. And so I decided to go the delegate caucus convention, even though I know it's severely hampered. It has some big problems. Of the 11,000 Republicans in this district, only about 250 people attended. So when I got the list of delegates, I thought, I know a lot of these people, and I can people know me, and I can make myself known. But no, it was a real twist on things. There's just some real anger. I don't know why that's out there. All of us can have feel the dysfunctionality in DC, but
Yeah.
Utah works pretty dang well. And
Yeah.
people can't separate that, unfortunately. And there's this unfortunate anti-incumbent thing, but we're all part-time legislators in Utah. The speaker and the president are full-time, but the rest of us are part-time, and you're struggling all the time to balance everything and to stay up to date. And it takes some amount of time to develop relationships, figure out the process, learn how to be effective. So I had a lot of people after the convention. I lost getting into the primary by 3 delegate votes. So people said, this isn't right that 59 people make this decision and I'm flattered by their words, a respected, effective legislator. What are you going to do? And I said, I'm not going to do anything. And then we looked at it, and they said, there is a path here. There is a path. If this can be done, you can do it for multiple reasons. And so after months of consternation and anxiety, my wife and I, Holly, decided that, what, we're not going to roll over to this stuff. We're going to fight. And if we go down, we go down, but we're going to go down swinging. And I can't look at myself 5 years in the mirror from now and say, gee, you should have tried it at least. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing. And so our fun slogan is, with the stroke of the pen, you can help us make history.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. There are very few write-in candidacies that we see as super successful but I don't know a single person who is not excited for your race. It seems to have a very different tenor than any kind of other traditional write-in
It's
candidacy.
kind of organic. You and I saw each other at an event Friday night, and I had 50 conversations with people coming up to me like, Steve, you can do this. This is wonderful. Can I donate to your campaign? Yes. What can I do to help? It was just, I mean, it's so gratifying. I'm just humbled about this. I
Absolutely.
really am. It's very exciting.
Well, I think one of the reasons that you get so much love and praise is for an issue that is near and dear to Tech's heart, the air quality issues that
Yeah.
you've been working on for years and years now. Air quality is the number one reason people in our industry would leave or not even come here. So talk to us a little bit about what you've done on air quality.
Yeah, happy to do it. This really came about. I'm a native born Utah, and I had a constituent some years ago who called me and said, Steve, what are you going to do about air quality? And I was just really a neophyte about it. I knew that we had bad air days, but I wasn't educated. And I'm embarrassed to say I kind of made he kind of caught me off guard and stuff. And I said, well, I can't legislate moving the mountains. And he said, that's a stupid comment. And he said, he says, you do good work. I like you, but you need to go dig in and do your homework. And he got my attention. And so I started digging in and started, what can I do? And worked on the Clearfield school buses thing for several years and got 115 school buses with some of the money from the Volkswagen settlement that Governor Herbert directed $7 million. It was amazing. And then working on EV tax credits, which is a high and heavy, stupid bar that we can't get to in Utah. And then many other things, and becoming one of the co-chairs of the Bipartisan Clean Air Caucus, which has been so great and so wonderful to see and embrace that, because we say, this isn't a bipartisan issue. Healthy environment and clean air is critical for us. But we've had a number of people from the economic development, EDCU say, and these stories that are shocking. And I'm so sorry about it, that they'll recruit these companies. They'll come into the Salt Lake airport during the February inversion and go, we're not bringing our people here. We are not doing this. And so it has to be all hands on deck. And we have to make this transition to new energy. We have to make this transition to cleaner vehicles. I'm so grateful for the Tier 3 fuel that we have and that we all supported, but there's so much more that we can do. And so it's my goal always to keep this front and center. And yes, our air is cleaner than it has been, but with a growing population, this is a critical issue. And I love working in this policy area, Elizabeth. I really do.
That's actually a really good kind of turn into what I wanted to ask you about next.
Yeah.
You live in an area of rapid growth, and you see a lot of development around where you live and where you represent. How do you see state playing into building an infrastructure for growing communities, whether it's housing or transportation? And how do we kind of mitigate the potential environmental effects that might come with?
This is a very, very tough balancing act. It is really the razor's edge. The district that I represent butts up against our Great Hill Air Force Base. It's a $7.5 billion annual economic impact. And of course, the tech community is highly, deeply, wonderfully involved here with these major defense contractors and with the government, the Air Force specifically. So the number one thing is quality of life. We have to have mobility. In my district, a huge portion of this Highway 89 runs through it. It's a $500 million. We have pushed for this for years. And I'm not taking full credit, but President Adams and the people from Layton City and the relationships with UDOT, this must be done, and it's underway. And already it's improved because we have got to stop the idling.
Yeah.
You can't get on these highways like this at rush time and idle. And we've advanced two very critical interchanges here in Layton at the Layton Hills Mall, and the one before called the Layton Parkway. Worked on that from my time on the city council. These are huge projects, but so critical to stop the idling and to move people as quickly as we can to their destinations. And it also enhances and adds to their quality of life. If you're on a freeway or at somewhere and you are stopped and slow, that's not great. And so the other thing I think, Elizabeth, if I can just take a second here, is that this crisis of housing, It is a crisis. I mean, the average home in Utah is $600,000. My word, I can't even imagine this. So the
Yep.
role of the state really is to provide smart incentives to local jurisdictions. We have to respect and stay in our lanes, but we can provide incentives for, we have to have greater density. We really do. You look at Clearfield, a portion that I'm pleased to represent, they've reinvented themselves. It's high density there, and it is pretty neat what they have been able to do.
And a lot of those projects, like in Clearfield,
Yeah.
you see a completely different version of high density than
Yes.
you might in other cities and other states. It's really beautiful and it feels like a community. It doesn't feel like the heart of the city has changed at all.
That's right. This is, we are in a transition in Utah. We know that we're not California, but the urbanized 100-mile Wasatch Front, where 80% of the population lives and works, we have just got to do this. I'm one of the great things. I'm on the Point of the Mountain State Land Authority board. This morning, we had our board meeting and talked to our developer there. Everything is sustainability. Everything is green. Everything is using the geothermal asset out there that I asked a question about at the prison, the old prison site. It is so exciting. A walkable, amazing community. We call that out there a 15-minute community. And it is going to be amazing. And we can't do that everywhere, but we have to be smart in our planning and forward thinking.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to kind of switch gears here just
Do
a
it.
little bit.
Do it.
Some of the tech industry, not some of, the entire tech industry is deeply, deeply concerned with workforce issues. And that doesn't just go to our education standards. That also goes to this growing definition of what the wage gap is in Utah and around the country. So we've seen this, we've seen the numbers, we've seen the data, we know it exists. But what do you think Utah as a state, what Utah's role should be in helping navigate slowing or ending the wage gap?
Yes, I want to say, and you're clearly talking about the wage gap between male and female. I have 4 daughters. 3 of them are in the workplace. The 3 that are in the workplace, 2 of them live out of state, and they have talked to me about this, and they have some challenges in California and Washington about these things too. So it's not just Utah, but I absolutely cannot accept that there should be a wage gap. Now, one of the great things that I'm involved in, I'm really grateful about this, is that I'm the House Chair of Economic Development and Workforce Services. So we are continually learning from the state agencies about what the situation is in the workforce. We've had all of the economists come in earlier in the year and talk to us about the changing workforce in Utah, and it's exciting, but it's also terrifying. Where are we going to house these people? Where are they going? Where are they going to be? But in terms of, I'm a fan of Dr. Susan Manson at Utah State. She's a friend. I've looked at her research. I always look at it. I've been on panels with her to talk about the wage gap, to talk about, and I think that the role of the state is to, number one, it's regulatory within reason, but number 2, to continue to shine a light on the disparity, the differences there that exist, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it shouldn't be.
So some of the problems, not just the wage gap, with recruiting our workforce. So we have a lot of students here. We don't have a lot of brain drain. Strangely enough, Utah's STEM students tend to stay at a rate of 88% in state and immediately get jobs, immediately get good jobs. But we still have anywhere between 8,000 and 12,000 positions that are just consistently open year over year.
Yeah.
A big part of that is when we do have to recruit from out of state, which we don't love, but we do. When we do have to recruit from out of state, there's a perception problem kind of on the forefront of saying, hey, you know what? You should move to Utah. Come to Utah. Utah's a great place. How do you think that the state at the state level can help change that perception?
Listen, I know a lot about what you're talking about, butting up against the base. The big contractor here is Northrop Grumman. They cannot find enough engineers.
Yep.
And they've got this $80 billion contract to do the next missile system, and all of these contractors around them, and they can't find enough engineers, and that is horrible. And so our higher ed institutions, Weber State, the U, and Utah State in particular, are pumping them out at a rapid rate. So this issue of perception, I think I have a good story to tell you here, Elizabeth, and that is one reason why I'm the one who brought the idea to get a new state flag. because I think that the old flag, as nice as it is, and I'm a fifth generation Utah, and I respect our history, but it's old fashioned. It's kind of stodgy. People don't relate to it. The median age in our state's about 29, the youngest state in the nation. And I can tell you, these young constituents brought this idea to me. It's a rebrand, and I think this rebrand will help, because perception becomes reality. I think it will help with that. Utah it's new, it's fresh, we're forward looking, we embrace diversity. I embrace diversity. I want diversity here. I love diversity here. So that's just one idea. And then back to the workforce, the committee that I currently chair, Economic Development and Workforce Service. This is a critical area that we ensure that the perception that when people are drawn to Utah by the great tech community and other the defense contractors that I know well too, that the people come here, they have a great experience, that we close the wage gap, but they have a great experience and they enjoy our lifestyle. Hopefully they won't contribute to problems in air quality. That's just a problem with the growing population, but we have to have awareness on that. So I think that the image of Utah, when I'm out of state, a little bit of travel with other legislators, I mean, they love the things that we're doing here, policy-wise, tax structure, all those kinds of things. They know that this is a growing tech center, and they're envious of what we're doing. And so we have more work to do, Elizabeth, absolutely, clearly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and we appreciate you being with us.
You're very, very welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.